What kind of person rips apart a puzzle, scatters its pieces, and demands a refund with a straight face? Karen Mitchell, 48, stood at the counter of Puzzle Haven, a quaint shop in downtown Asheville, her voice sharp enough to cut glass. The clerk, Emily, barely 20, clutched the edge of the counter, her knuckles whitening as Karen's accusations grew louder. The puzzle, a 2,000-piece masterpiece depicting a serene mountain landscape, lay in its box, edges frayed, pieces suspiciously disordered. Karen's eyes glinted with a mix of defiance and desperation, her purse slung over her shoulder like a shield. She claimed the puzzle was defective, missing pieces shoddily made. Emily, new to the job but trained to spot scams, sensed something off. The box looked tampered with, the pieces too deliberately scattered. Karen's story didn't add up, but she pressed on, her voice rising, drawing curious glances from other customers browsing the shelves. Puzzle Haven was more than a store. It was a community hub where retirees, families, and hobbyists gathered to piece together intricate designs, swapping stories over steaming coffee. The shop's owner, Mr. Grayson, a soft-spoken man in his 60s, had built it from nothing, pouring his heart into every curated puzzle. For him, each box was a promise of joy, a small escape from life's chaos. Karen's complaint wasn't just an inconvenience. It was an affront to that promise. Emily, still learning the ropes, felt the weight of defending the shop's integrity. She offered a polite smile, asking Karen to explain the issue again, hoping for a slip-up. Karen leaned in, her tone venomous, insisting she'd spent hours assembling the puzzle only to find it incomplete. She demanded a full refund, plus compensation for her wasted time. Emily's heart raced. She'd seen customers like this before, entitled, quick to exploit kindness. But something about Karen's demeanor, the way her hands trembled slightly despite her bold words, hinted at more beneath the surface. Was this just a scam, or was Karen hiding something deeper? Emily excused herself, slipping into the back room to consult Mr. Grayson. The older man adjusted his glasses, listening intently as Emily described the situation. He'd dealt with a share of refund hustlers over the years, but Karen's name rang a bell. A quick check of the store's records confirmed it. She'd returned 3 puzzles in the past year, each time claiming defects, each time walking away with cash. Mr. Grayson's jaw tightened. This wasn't just a one-off, it was a pattern. He handed Emily a small tablet, instructing her to pull up the store's security footage. Puzzle Haven had recently installed cameras after a string of similar complaints. As Emily scrolled through the grainy footage, her breath caught. There, timestamped 2 days ago, was Karen, lingering in the aisle, her movements furtive. She opened a puzzle box, removed a handful of pieces, and tucked them into her purse before resealing the box and placing it back on the shelf. Emily's stomach churned. It was deliberate, calculated. Karen hadn't just found a defective puzzle. She'd created one. Back at the counter, Karen's impatience was palpable. She tapped her foot, checking her phone, oblivious to the storm brewing. Emily returned, her face calm but her mind racing. She asked Karen to wait a moment longer, citing store policy for defective returns. Karen scoffed, muttering about incompetence, but Emily's resolve hardened. She wasn't just protecting the store. She was standing up for fairness, for the countless customers who trusted Puzzle Haven's integrity. Mr. Grayson emerged from the back, his presence quiet but commanding. He asked Karen to repeat her story, his voice gentle but probing. Karen obliged, her narrative polished, almost rehearsed. She didn't notice the tablet in Emily's hands. The footage paused on her damning act. The shop grew quiet, the hum of conversation fading as other customers sensed the tension. Emily's heart pounded as she prepared to confront Karen. She didn't want to humiliate her, but the truth demanded to be told. Mr. Grayson nodded subtly, giving her the go-ahead. Emily took a deep breath, her voice steady as she asked, "Ma'am, are you sure the puzzle was defective when you bought it?" Karen's eyes narrowed, sensing a trap, but she doubled down, insisting she'd done nothing wrong. Emily turned the tablet toward her, pressing play. The footage rolled, clear as day. Karen's hands, the stolen pieces, the tampered box. Karen's face drained of color, her bravado crumbling. The air in Puzzle Haven grew thick, charged with the weight of the moment. Karen stammered, her excuses faltering as Emily held her gaze. Mr. Grayson stepped forward, his voice low but firm. "We can't offer a refund for a puzzle you damaged yourself." The words landed like a gavel, final and unyielding. Karen's lips parted, but no sound came. For the first time, she seemed small, exposed, her carefully crafted facade shattered. The other customers whispered, their murmurs a quiet chorus of shock and judgment. Emily felt a pang of pity, but it was fleeting. Karen had crossed the line, and the truth was now laid bare. But there was more to Karen's story, something none of them could have anticipated. As Emily watched her, she noticed a faint tremble in Karen's hands, a flicker of something deeper than shame. It wasn't just greed driving her. It was desperation. A twist in the tale began to unravel, one that would shift the narrative in ways no one expected. Karen wasn't just a scammer. She was a woman drowning in a sea of her own making, and the puzzle was only the tip of the iceberg. Karen's eyes darted to the floor, avoiding the tablet's accusing glow. The Puzzle Haven customers, now a small audience, stood frozen, their curiosity pinning her in place. Emily's pulse hadn't slowed. The confrontation felt like standing on a tightrope. She wanted to push forward, to demand an explanation, but Mr. Grayson's steady hand on her shoulder signaled patience. Karen's silence stretched, heavy and suffocating, until she finally muttered, "This is a misunderstanding." Her voice lacked the fire from moments ago, replaced by a brittle edge that hinted at something unraveling. Emily caught it, a crack in Karen's armor, a glimpse of something raw. Was it guilt, fear, or something else entirely? Mr. Grayson, ever the diplomat, suggested they step into the back office to discuss privately. Karen hesitated, her gaze flickering to the exit, but the weight of the onlookers' stares seemed to anchor her. She followed, clutching her purse like a lifeline. Emily trailed behind, the tablet still in her hands, its footage a silent witness. The back office was cramped, lined with shelves of puzzle boxes and a single desk cluttered with invoices. The air smelled of cardboard and coffee, a stark contrast to the tension filling the space. Mr. Grayson offered Karen a chair, but she remained standing, her posture rigid. "Why don't you tell us what really happened?" he asked, his tone gentle but unyielding. Karen's lips tightened, and for a moment, it seemed she might bolt. Then, unexpectedly, her shoulders sagged, and she sank into the chair. "I didn't mean for it to go this far," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. Emily leaned forward, caught off guard by the shift. Karen's story spilled out in fragments. A struggling business, mounting debts, a family to support. She'd started small, returning items at other stores for quick cash, but Puzzle Haven's generous refund policy had made it an easy target. "It was just a few pieces," she said, almost to herself. "I thought no one would notice." Emily's chest tightened. She'd expected a fight, not this. Karen's confession felt like a punch she hadn't braced for. But there was more. Karen's eyes welled up as she spoke of her daughter, Lily, a bright-eyed teenager who loved puzzles. Lily had been coming to Puzzle Haven for years, spending hours assembling intricate designs in the shop's cozy corner. Karen's scam wasn't just about money. It was about keeping up appearances, shielding Lily from the truth of their crumbling finances. The twist hit Emily hard. Karen wasn't just a liar. She was a mother sacrificing her pride to protect her child, even if it meant crossing lines she couldn't uncross. Mr. Grayson listened, his face unreadable. Emily, however, felt a storm of emotions. Anger at Karen's deceit, pity for her desperation, and a nagging sense of responsibility. Should they let her go with a warning? Or was justice more important than mercy? Mr. Grayson broke the silence, his voice calm but firm. "Karen, you've taken advantage of our trust. We can't ignore that." He paused, letting the words settle. "But I also know you're not the only one struggling. Let's talk about what's really going on. Karen's tears spilled over, and she buried her face in her hands. Emily felt a lump in her throat, torn between the shop's honor and the human in front of her. Mr. Grayson suggested a compromise. No refund, but they wouldn't press charges if Karen agreed to make amends. She could volunteer at the shop, helping with inventory or hosting puzzle nights, a way to repay the community she'd wronged. Karen nodded, her voice choked. I'll do it. I just didn't want Lily to know. Emily's mind raced. The footage was still on the tablet, a ticking bomb that could ruin Karen's reputation if it leaked. She wanted to believe Karen's remorse was genuine, but doubt lingered. Had Karen's tears been another performance, or was this the real her, laid bare? As they returned to the shop floor, the customers had dispersed, but the air still buzzed with whispers. Emily noticed a familiar face among the shelves. Lily, Karen's daughter, her nose buried in a puzzle box, oblivious to the drama. Emily's heart sank. The girl's innocence was a stark contrast to her mother's choices, and it made the situation feel heavier. Mr. Grayson pulled Emily aside, his voice low. We need to decide what to do with the footage. It's proof, but it's also a weapon. Emily nodded, her mind flashing to Lily's bright smile. Exposing Karen publicly could destroy more than just her pride. It could shatter her daughter's world. But letting it slide felt like betraying the shop's values. Emily felt the weight of the decision pressing down, the line between right and wrong blurring. Karen, meanwhile, lingered by the counter, her eyes darting to Lily, her expression a mix of shame and fear. The confrontation was far from over. The truth was out, but the real battle was just beginning, not just for Karen, but for Emily, who had to navigate the murky waters of justice and compassion. As the day wore on, the shop's warm glow felt colder, the puzzles on the shelves a reminder of the fragile pieces of trust Karen had broken. The afternoon sun slanted through Puzzle Haven's windows, casting long shadows across the hardwood floor. Karen stood near the counter, her hands fidgeting with her purse strap, her eyes flickering between Emily and the door. Lily, unaware of the storm her mother had unleashed, hummed softly as she examined a puzzle of a starry night sky. Emily's chest ached at the sight. Lily's innocence was a fragile thread in this tangled mess. Mr. Grayson, ever the steady anchor, motioned for Emily to follow him to the back again. The decision about the footage loomed like a thundercloud, and the shop's quiet hum felt like the calm before a storm. In the cramped office, Mr. Grayson leaned against the desk, his brow furrowed. Emily, you saw her out there. She's not just a scammer. She's a mother. But we can't let this slide. Other customers deserve to know we protect them. His words were measured, but Emily sensed the conflict in his tone. She nodded, her mind racing. Exposing Karen could deter future scams, but it would also drag Lily into the fallout. The girl's bright laughter from the shop floor echoed in Emily's ears, a reminder of the stakes. What if we keep it quiet, but make her work it off? Emily suggested, her voice tentative. She helps the shop, and Lily doesn't have to know. Mr. Grayson rubbed his chin, considering. It's fair but risky. If word gets out, we let her off easy. Others might try the same. Emily's stomach twisted. She thought of the footage, that damning clip of Karen's hands slipping pieces into her purse. It was more than evidence. It was a story of desperation, one that could ruin her if it spread. Emily's instinct was to protect Lily, but she also felt the weight of the shop's reputation, built on years of trust. The tension between mercy and justice gnawed at her, and she wondered if she was too soft for this job. Back on the shop floor, Karen approached Lily, her smile forced as she suggested they leave. Lily protested, holding up the Starry Night puzzle. Can we get this one, Mom? It's perfect for our game nights. Karen's face faltered, and Emily caught the flicker of pain in her eyes. It was the first time Emily saw Karen not as a schemer, but as a woman carrying an unbearable load. The moment passed, and Karen nodded, promising to come back for it. As they left, Emily felt a tug of unease. Keeping Karen's secret felt right, but it also felt like a gamble. That evening, Emily stayed late, helping Mr. Grayson close up. The shop was empty, the puzzles neatly stacked, but the air still carried the day's tension. They agreed to hold off on releasing the footage, giving Karen a chance to prove her remorse through volunteer work. But Emily couldn't shake the feeling that this wasn't over. She replayed the confrontation in her mind, Karen's trembling hands, her tearful confession. There was something deeper, something Karen hadn't fully revealed. Emily's curiosity gnawed at her, urging her to dig. The next day, Karen returned, her demeanor subdued. She wore a plain sweater, her hair pulled back, as if trying to blend into the background. Mr. Grayson assigned her to sort inventory in the back, a task both practical and out of sight. Emily watched her work, noting the careful way Karen handled the puzzle boxes, almost reverently. It was a stark contrast to the woman who'd stormed in demanding a refund. During a break, Emily approached, offering a cup of coffee. Karen accepted it, her fingers brushing the mug as if it were a lifeline. "I'm not a bad person," Karen said suddenly, her voice low. "I just got lost." Emily nodded, unsure how to respond. She wanted to ask more, to understand why Karen had risked so much for a few dollars, but the words caught in her throat. Instead, she asked about Lily, hoping to steer the conversation to safer ground. Karen's face softened, and she spoke of her daughter's love for puzzles, her dream of becoming an artist. But as she talked, her voice cracked, and Emily sensed the weight of unspoken truths. Karen's desperation wasn't just about money. It was about keeping a fragile family together, about shielding Lily from a world that was falling apart. As the day wore on, Emily noticed a customer lingering near the counter, a man in his 30s with sharp eyes and a notebook. He asked pointed questions about the shop's return policy, his tone casual but probing. Emily's instincts flared. Something about him felt off. When she mentioned it to Mr. Grayson, he frowned. "That's Tom Harper. He's a local blogger, always sniffing for a story." Emily's heart sank. If Tom caught wind of Karen's scam, the footage could end up online, and their fragile agreement would collapse. The confrontation wasn't just between Karen and the shop anymore. It was about to spill into the public eye, and Emily wasn't sure they could contain it. Tom Harper's presence in Puzzle Haven cast a shadow over the shop's usual warmth. His notebook, tucked under his arm, felt like a loaded gun, ready to fire a story that could unravel everything. Emily watched him from behind the counter, her hands busy shelving puzzles, but her mind racing. Karen, in the back, was oblivious, sorting boxes with a quiet focus that betrayed her earlier bravado. Emily's stomach churned. She'd wanted to give Karen a chance, but Tom's sharp gaze threatened to expose the truth before they could control it. Mr. Grayson, sensing the shift, pulled Emily aside. "Keep an eye on him," he whispered. "If he's here for Karen, we need to be ready." Emily nodded, her resolve hardening. She approached Tom, offering a bright smile. "Looking for anything specific?" she asked, hoping to steer him away. Tom's eyes flicked up, assessing her. "Just browsing," he said, but his tone was too smooth, too calculated. He lingered near the puzzle Karen had tampered with, his fingers brushing the box as if testing its weight. Emily's pulse quickened. Did he know? Had someone tipped him off? The shop felt smaller, the walls closing in as the stakes climbed higher. Meanwhile, Karen emerged from the back, her face pale but composed. She caught sight of Tom and froze, her eyes widening. Emily followed her gaze, realizing Karen recognized him. The air crackled with unspoken history. Karen quickly retreated, but not before Tom's head turned, his expression sharpening like a predator catching a scent. Emily's mind raced. There was a connection here, something beyond a random blogger sniffing for a scoop. She needed to know what, but confronting Karen directly risked tipping Tom off. That evening, after Tom left, Emily found Karen in the back, her hands trembling as she stacked boxes. "Who was he to you?" Emily asked, keeping her voice low. Karen's eyes darted away, but the fear in them was unmistakable. After a long pause, she admitted Tom was a former business partner from her failed catering company. He'd lost money when the business collapsed, and he'd never forgiven her. He's been waiting for me to slip up, Karen whispered. If he finds out about this, he'll ruin me. Emily's heart sank. The twist deepened. Karen's scam wasn't just about desperation. It was tangled in a web of old grudges, and Tom was the spider waiting to strike. Emily shared this with Mr. Grayson, whose face darkened. We can't let him turn this into a spectacle, he said. But we also can't hide the truth forever. They agreed to confront Karen again, this time with clear terms. She had to come clean fully, no more half-truths, or they'd have no choice but to release the footage. The next morning, Karen arrived early, her eyes red-rimmed but resolute. She sat across from Emily and Mr. Grayson in the office, her voice steady as she laid bare the rest of her story. The catering business had tanked after a bad deal, leaving her in debt to Tom and others. She'd started scamming stores to cover bills, each lie piling onto the last until she couldn't see a way out. Puzzle Haven had been her latest target, chosen because Lily loved it, and Karen thought she could exploit its kindness without getting caught. Emily listened, her anger softening into something heavier, empathy, but laced with frustration. Karen's choices were wrong, but her reasons were human. Mr. Grayson, ever practical, outlined the plan. Karen would continue volunteering, but they'd also require her to attend a financial counseling program. In return, they'd keep the footage private, provided she stayed honest. Karen agreed, her relief palpable, but Emily couldn't shake the feeling that Tom was still a wild card. Sure enough, Tom returned the next day, this time with a camera. He asked pointed questions about recent returns, his tone casual but his eyes gleaming with intent. Emily's heart raced as she deflected, but she knew he was closing in. That afternoon, she overheard him talking to a customer outside, mentioning a story about a scam. Panic surged. Tom was piecing it together, and if he got the footage, Karen's life and Lily's would be collateral damage. Emily and Mr. Grayson decided to act. They called Karen to the shop, laying out the situation. We need to confront him before he goes public, Mr. Grayson said. But we do it on our terms. The stage was set for a showdown. Emily's hands shook as she prepared to face Tom, the tablet with the footage ready but hidden. Karen, pale but determined, agreed to stand with them, knowing her secret was at stake. As Tom walked in, the shop felt like a battlefield, the puzzles on the shelves silent witnesses to the clash about to unfold. The bell above Puzzle Haven's door chimed as Tom Harper stepped inside, his camera slung around his neck, his notebook now replaced by a smug confidence. Emily stood behind the counter, her heart pounding like a drum. Mr. Grayson was by her side, his calm demeanor a stark contrast to the storm brewing in her chest. Karen waited in the back, out of sight but ready, her presence a silent weight in the room. The shop was quieter than usual, as if the puzzles themselves were holding their breath. Tom's eyes scanned the space, landing on Emily with a knowing glint. Heard there was some trouble with a return, he said, his voice dripping with false curiosity. Care to comment? Emily's throat tightened, but she forced a steady tone. We handle returns fairly, Tom. What's your angle? His smile widened, sensing her unease. He leaned in, lowering his voice. Word is, someone tried to scam you. Got any names? Emily's mind raced. Someone had talked. Maybe a customer who'd overheard the confrontation. She glanced at Mr. Grayson, who gave a subtle nod. It was time. Emily stepped out from behind the counter, her voice firm. If you're fishing for a story, let's talk facts. But not here. She gestured toward the back office, knowing Tom wouldn't resist. As they entered the cramped room, Karen stood waiting, her face pale but resolute. Tom's smirk faltered when he saw her, his eyes narrowing. Karen, he said, the word laced with venom. Didn't expect you here. Karen's hands clenched, but she held his gaze. I know you've been waiting for this, Tom, she said, her voice steady despite the tremble in her fingers. But I'm not hiding anymore. Emily's heart thudded. She hadn't expected Karen to take the lead. Mr. Grayson closed the door, the click echoing like a gavel. Emily set the tablet on the desk. The footage paused on Karen's act. We know what happened, she said, her eyes locked on Tom. And we know you're here to exploit it. Tom's expression hardened, but he didn't back down. Expose a liar, you mean? He shot back. She's been conning people for years. You think this is her first scam? He gestured at Karen, his voice rising. She tanked our business, left me with nothing, and now she's ripping off your shop. The public deserves to know. Karen flinched, but she didn't retreat. I was wrong, Tom, she said, her voice breaking. I've been wrong for a long time, but I'm trying to make it right. Emily watched the exchange, her emotions a tangle of sympathy and resolve. Tom's anger was justified, but his hunger for revenge felt cruel. Mr. Grayson stepped forward, his presence commanding. Tom, you want a story? Here's one, redemption. Karen's working to fix her mistakes. If you publish that footage, you're not exposing a villain, you're hurting a family. Tom laughed, a sharp, bitter sound. You think I care about her sob story? She's a thief. Emily's patience snapped. She pressed play on the tablet, letting the footage speak for itself. Tom's eyes flicked to the screen, but his expression didn't soften. This'll make a great headline, he said, pulling out his camera. Emily's heart sank. Tom wasn't here for truth. He was here for blood. But Karen wasn't done. She stepped closer, her voice raw. I hurt you, Tom. I know that. But ruining me won't fix what happened. I'm sorry for the business, for everything. Her words hung in the air, heavy with sincerity. Tom's hand paused on his camera, his jaw tightening. For a moment, Emily thought he might relent, but then he shook his head. Too late for apologies, he said, turning to leave. Emily's mind raced. If Tom walked out, the story would hit the internet by morning, and Karen's life, Lily's life, would be torn apart. She couldn't let that happen. Wait, she called, her voice sharper than she intended. Tom turned, one eyebrow raised. Emily took a breath, her decision made. If you publish that, we'll release our own story. About how you've been hounding Karen for years, turning a personal grudge into a public vendetta. We have witnesses, Tom. Customers who've seen you lurking, asking questions. Is it the headline you want? Tom's face darkened, his confidence wavering. Mr. Grayson nodded approvingly, and Karen's eyes widened, a flicker of hope breaking through her fear. The room felt like a powder keg, everywhere to spark. Tom weighed his options, his fingers twitching on his camera. Finally, he lowered it, his voice cold. You're making a mistake protecting her. He turned and left, the door slamming behind him. Emily exhaled, her legs shaky. Karen sank into a chair, tears streaming down her face. Thank you, she whispered. Mr. Grayson placed a hand on her shoulder, his voice gentle. This isn't over, Karen. You got work to do. Emily nodded, her mind already turning to the next challenge, keeping Tom at bay and ensuring Karen's redemption wasn't just words. The days following the confrontation with Tom were a blur of tension and quiet resolve. Puzzle Haven returned to its usual rhythm, the clink of puzzle pieces and soft chatter filling the air. But Emily couldn't shake the unease. Tom hadn't published anything yet, but his silence felt like a storm gathering strength. Karen, meanwhile, threw herself into her volunteer work, organizing shelves with a diligence that surprised Emily. She arrived early, stayed late, and even helped set up a puzzle night for local kids, her hands steady as she guided them through intricate designs. Emily watched her, torn between admiration and caution. Was this Karen's true self, or another act to save face? Lily came to the shop often, her presence a bright spot in the lingering tension. She'd sit in the corner, piecing together puzzles with a focus that mirrored her mother's newfound dedication. Emily noticed Karen watching her daughter from a distance, her eyes soft with a mix of pride and guilt. One afternoon, Lily approached Emily, holding up a completed puzzle of a lighthouse. Mom's been different lately, she said, her voice curious but not suspicious. Happier, I think. Emily smiled, her heart twisting. She wanted to protect that innocence, but the truth felt like a weight she couldn't carry forever. Mr. Grayson, ever the pragmatist, kept a close eye on the shop's online presence, checking for any sign of Tom's story. So far, nothing, but he warned Emily to stay vigilant. He's not the type to let go, he said, his voice low. Emily nodded, her mind replaying the confrontation. She'd bluffed about having witnesses, but it had worked. Tom's hesitation had bought them time. Still, she couldn't shake the feeling that he was waiting for the right moment to strike. One evening, as Emily locked up, she found a note slipped under the door. It was unsigned, but the scrawled words sent a chill down her spine. I know what you're hiding. Her first thought was Tom, but the handwriting didn't match the sharp, precise notes he'd taken in the shop. She showed it to Mr. Grayson the next morning, her hands shaking. Could be a prank, he said, but his frown betrayed his concern. They decided to keep it from Karen for now, not wanting to derail her progress. But the note gnawed at Emily, a reminder that secrets had a way of surfacing. Karen's transformation continued, but it wasn't without stumbles. One day, she snapped at a customer who'd complained about a puzzle's difficulty, her old sharpness resurfacing. Emily pulled her aside, her voice firm but kind. You're better than that, Karen. Don't let the past pull you back. Karen's eyes glistened, and she nodded, apologizing to the customer later. Emily saw the effort it took, the battle between the woman Karen had been and the one she was trying to become. It was a fight Emily respected, even if she didn't fully trust it. The breaking point came a week later, when Tom returned. He didn't enter the shop this time, just stood outside, snapping photos of the storefront. Emily's heart sank as she saw him, his camera a silent threat. She stepped outside, her voice steady despite the fear clawing at her. What do you want, Tom? He lowered the camera, his smile cold. Just documenting the truth, he said. People need to know who they're dealing with. Emily's mind raced. She couldn't let him destroy Karen, not when she was trying so hard. But before she could respond, Karen emerged from the shop, her face pale but determined. Tom, stop, Karen said, her voice carrying a strength Emily hadn't heard before. I've owned my mistakes. I'm making it right. If you want to hurt me, fine, but don't hurt this place. Tom's eyes narrowed, but Karen didn't flinch. I'm sorry for what happened between us, she continued. I can't undo it, but I'm not that person anymore. The street was quiet, passers-by pausing to watch the exchange. Emily held her breath, sensing the moment's weight. Tom's expression wavered, his anger clashing with something softer, regret, maybe, or doubt. He lowered his camera, his voice low. You don't get to decide when it's over, Karen. But he turned and walked away, leaving Emily and Karen standing in the fading light. Karen's shoulders shook, and Emily instinctively reached out, squeezing her arm. You did good, she said softly. Karen nodded, tears spilling over. For the first time, Emily felt a spark of hope, not just for Karen, but for the possibility of second chances. Puzzle Haven buzzed with life again, the tension of the past weeks easing like a fog lifting. Karen's volunteer work became a fixture, her presence no longer a shadow, but a quiet strength. She organized puzzle nights with a warmth that drew in families, her laughter mingling with theirs as they pieced together colorful landscapes. Emily watched her, marveling at the change. Karen wasn't perfect. She still had moments of sharpness, moments where her old defenses flared. But she was trying, and that effort was a beacon in the shop's cozy glow. Lily, oblivious to her mother's past, thrived in the shop's embrace. She started a puzzle club for teens, her enthusiasm infectious. One evening, she presented Emily with a custom puzzle she designed, a vibrant collage of Puzzle Haven's storefront. For you, Lily said, her smile bright. Emily's throat tightened as she accepted it. The piece is a reminder of how fragile trust could be, and how precious. She glanced at Karen, who watched from across the room, her eyes glistening with pride. For the first time, Emily saw a mother who'd fought her way back from the edge, not just for herself, but for her daughter. Tom's shadow lingered, but he hadn't published the story. Emily suspected Karen's raw honesty had shaken him, planting a seed of doubt in his vendetta. The mysterious note never resurfaced, and Mr. Grayson chalked it up to a prank, though Emily still scanned the shop's corners with wary eyes. They'd kept the footage locked away, a silent agreement to protect Karen's second chance. But Emily knew trust was a two-way street. She sat Karen down one morning, her voice gentle but firm. "You're doing good work, but it's not just about the shop. You need to tell Lily the truth, someday." Karen's face paled, but she nodded. "I know. I'm just scared." Emily understood that fear, the weight of a truth that could shatter a child's world. But she also believed in Karen's strength, a strength forged in the fire of her mistakes. "You'll know when it's time," Emily said, offering a small smile. Karen returned it, a flicker of hope in her eyes. Months later, Puzzle Haven hosted its annual community puzzle festival, the shop overflowing with laughter and chatter. Karen stood at the center, guiding a group through a massive puzzle of the city skyline. Lily worked beside her, their hands moving in sync, a quiet bond that spoke louder than words. Emily watched from the counter, her heart full. Mr. Grayson joined her, his eyes crinkling with a rare smile. "You did good, Emily," he said. "You saw the person behind the lie." Emily shook her head, her voice soft. "It wasn't just me. It was all of us." She thought of the customers who'd stayed loyal, the community that had rallied around the shop's values. Puzzle Haven wasn't just a store. It was a place where broken pieces could be put back together, where trust could be rebuilt, one small act at a time. Karen's journey wasn't over, but she'd taken the first steps, and that was enough for now. As the festival wound down, Emily stepped outside, the evening air cool against her skin. The sandwich board by the door still bore faint traces of chalk, the words "puzzle scam" exposed, long erased. In their place, someone, Lily perhaps, had scrawled a new message. "Piece by piece, we build together." Emily smiled, her heart lifting. The words were simple, but they carried the weight of everything they'd been through. Karen's lie had tested them, but it had also shown what they could achieve when they chose compassion over judgment, trust over vengeance. Karen stepped outside, Lily at her side. "Thanks for giving me a chance," she said quietly, her voice thick with emotion. Emily nodded, unable to find words. Lily hugged her mother, oblivious to the weight of the moment, and Emily felt a surge of hope. Life, like a puzzle, was messy and imperfect, but with patience, the pieces could fit together into something beautiful. As the stars emerged above Asheville, Puzzle Haven glowed behind them, a beacon of second chances. Karen's story wasn't just about a failed scam. It was about a woman finding her way back, a community holding strong, and a truth that, when faced, could set you free.